So my next guest is Greg Palast, who is a hero of mine. I read his book, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy. I think I read it in 2003 or 2004. It was about how George Bush stole the very first election in 2000, his first election in 2000. It talked about the 70,000 voters in Florida, black voters who were disenfranchised. It talked about all the ways in which um, uh, we have voter suppression in that year. And then he came out with a film called The Best Democracy Money Can Buy in 2016, which talks about how Republicans have been doing voter suppression for uh, you know years and years, and how they were systematically stripping people's names from the voter rolls. Um, we have a strong hat game. Another man who has a strong hat game, I understand, is here tonight with us. Yes. Finally. Mr. Greg Palast is here.
I am here.
Oh, and let me ask, is that a real bookshelf behind you, or is this the sort of Joe Biden green screen bookshelf?
Yeah, but my bookshelf is useless because I've already colored in everything, you know? That's left for me to do. I don't know if it says up on your screen. My screen says that the guy in the hat, the guy in front of the bookshelf, is named Kerry Harrison.
No, you have your name on our.
Oh, I have. Okay, so it says okay. So this is Greg Palast, or a good imitation thereof.
Greg Palast, you're one of the most thorough and incisive journalists on the matter of elections. You brought the truth to light about the 2000 election, about what happened in 2016. Now your new book is How Trump Stole 2020, and you're also fucking hilarious. How do you do all of these things at once?
Well, you know, I think I give a lot of credit to my co-writer, Mr. Jack Daniels, and that's all I can do. And this is you know, it's very funny that you say something about me being funny, because that's why I worked for BBC Television, because in Britain I was literally going and covering the vulture financier, Paul the Vulture Singer, who had taken money for cholera medicines from the Congo, and I was in the Congo in a cholera clinic, and I was able to actually pull off some pretty good jokes in a cholera clinic in the Congo, because I don't make fun of the victims, I make fun of the victimizers. And so I just switched on you. There was no punchline there. I actually gave you just the cold information. So well, I should say that the new book I'm going to advertise.
Cholera is the funniest plague since the bubonic, I think.
Yeah, that's yeah. So
it's not a good joke either.
I don't know. No, it's really that.
I do have one coronavirus joke. I have one coronavirus joke. You want to hear it?
Okay, one.
Before you get to this is important. So I was on the phone with a very good friend of mine, who also happens to be my substitute Jewish mother every once in a while. Okay. And it was actually Deborah Winger, who I love and who I worked with on Gasland. And she knew, she worked with me on Gasland. We worked on the anti-fracking campaign. I had a question for her about SDK Knickerbocker, and it's a long story. But anyway, she goes, Josh, really, you got to make sure you stay home. You had Lyme disease in the past. That means you're immunocompromised or whatever. And I did have Lyme disease. And, she was like, these don't go together. You really got to make sure you don't get this. And I thought about it for a minute. And I thought, that's so wonderful. She's so protective of me. That's fantastic. And I put it together in my mind. And I said, Deborah, are you saying to me that it's a bad combination to have corona with Lyme?
Oh!
It's funny because it's true.
What I found is
you didn't see that one coming.
It's really hard to put on makeup under a mask.
No, but I know that we all have to have some sense of levity, or else we go completely.
That's why I wrote a book called How Trump Stole 2020.
Excellent segue, Mr. Palast.
Right, and
tell us all about it.
And today, in fact, if you go to gregpalast.com or Nation Change, you'll see my article on how the virus is voted for Trump on mail-in voting, and we've all gone to mail-in voting, but it's not as simple as lick and stick. So try to expose that thing. We've all gone, let's all mail in our votes. 22% of all mail-in votes never get counted. So if we go to
wait a minute, stop. How many percentage of mail-in votes don't get counted?
Percent. Now, if you've been through America's No Child
22%
program, yep. Now multiply that times about 110 million votes. We go to 80% mail-in, and you end up with 25 million votes, which will never get counted. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. And it's not just anyone's vote. Voters of color really get, it's like the virus. I remember when the virus started, people were saying, oh, it attacks the rich and poor, Republicans and Democrats, black and white, we're all victims. That's all bullshit, okay? We know now that you have an unbelievably high proportion of voters of color, people of color, whether they vote or not, are getting this, are more liable to the virus and more liable to dying from it. Now, same with your mail-in ballot. It's more likely to die or get excluded and quarantined if you are a voter of color. So I'm concerned with that.
Why? Why is that?
Well, you have to get a ballot. They have to mail it to you to mail it back in. Okay, think about that. Okay, so what happens is they send out these postcards to people. Do you want a mail-in ballot? Now, two things. You don't get the postcard if, according in Ohio, right? We're talking swing states: Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, other places. If you are on what's called the inactive list. Now, inactive doesn't mean you've just been a couch potato. It means that according to the state, you haven't voted in a couple of elections. Now, what's weird about that, you're never supposed to lose your vote under U.S. law if you've decided not to vote. And you've got the other problem that black people are often, and young people, poor people, excluded from voting. So they take away your vote in one election, and they say, oh, you haven't voted. And so then they don't send you the card, so you can't get a vote to vote. 1,039,000 voters in Ohio were denied the right in 2016 to get their mail-in ballot on the inactive list. 2-1 Democrats. Tell me who actually won the election. This is why I'm doing this frickin' book, because I did a book. Okay, so remember, a lot of people know Greg Palast is the guy who did this book, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy, about how the election in 2000 was stolen by Jeb Bush or his brother against Al Gore. And what I discovered, I was the Guardian and BBC reporter, discovered black people removed because, they were voting while black. Well, that's why you removed them from the voter rolls. Technically, they said they were felons. Not one, zero were illegal voters. But Josh, what happened is that I wrote a book after that election explaining how the election was stolen. 2004, the election was stolen again, Kerry versus Bush, by theft in Ohio. And by the way, John Kerry, I will say, said he read my book and he agrees with me. So there you go.
But he didn't fight back.
Well, remember, he's got his own disease. He's a Democrat. So it's, come on, you don't make fun of people who are politically disabled, okay? Just come on, have sympathy. Hillary Clinton, by the way, did not lose in Wisconsin. Supposedly she lost by 22,000 votes, but check out this. 182,000 University of Wisconsin students were the University of Wisconsin, but your concealed carry ID can be used to vote in Wisconsin, but not your student ID. Guns, you can vote. Books, forget it. So you had lost 182,000 students. That's how Hillary lost Wisconsin. Michigan, 10,000. Now, according to the official, meaning the New York Times, count, is Donald Trump won Michigan in 2016 by 10,700 votes. Now, stay with me on the math. 75,355 votes were never counted because of broken counting machines and scanners in Detroit. Now they say, we don't know whose votes those were. We can't know whose votes they were. What, in Detroit, in Motown? What, that's Trump town? So Hillary didn't lose that race. So I'll explain. So I wrote I did a film, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy.
What about And
I did another cluster F. But the
You can curse on this show.
There are older people listening. I got to be careful. And so what happened was Hillary Clinton didn't lose. It was another Jim Crow election, the third in out of 5.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened? So now I decided here we're heading into another steal. So I figured I'd write the book about how Trump stole this election now. So
Before the election.
Warning. So I'm saying here's how he stole the election, but we can actually steal it back. So right as of by the way, today, the usual suspect, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, et cetera, will allow you to pre-order the book out June 2. But most exciting and important, I want you to get that book, obviously. But most
I'm going to order it right now. In fact, we posted the link about how to order it right on the People for Bernie's chat right there.
Super bueno. And by the way, I have a chapter called California Reman about how they effed Bernie out of his win in 2016 in California.
Wait a minute. Stop. Hold the presses. Because I was there in California. I was campaigning door to door for Bernie in California in 2016. And I spoke at a rally in LA. I spoke at a rally in San Diego. We were there. I was there with Shailene Woodley and Kendrick Sampson and Dick Van Dyke. And we had a dance party backstage. It's one of the most amazing memories. Ozo Motley is on stage before Bernie goes on in the entire campaign. Even Simone Sanders was dancing at that thing backstage. We were just letting loose. And we were convinced we had California. We knew we had California. We were like 3-1. Everybody was Bernie when we were canvassing. And then boom, we went to the opening to the party in California. And there it is. We're down 30 points. It didn't make any sense. Tell me what happened.
Okay.
So I need to know.
And now I'm going to tell you about, let me just tell you about the last one a few weeks ago. Okay. I have a very, very exacting calculation that Bernie Sanders was screwed out of 553,000 votes in this past primary. Now, he won because they couldn't stop him. He had this overwhelming Latinx vote for T.O. Bernie that they could not possibly overcome. But he got screwed out enough votes. There were about maybe, I haven't done the calculation on delegates, but probably 100 delegates, which would have kept him in the business. Now, I don't know how it would have ended up with the gang up deal that happened. So I can't tell you. But I do know what happened in California. And I'm not going to go into all the details because, damn, I want you to buy the book, How Trump Stole 2020. But to understand how he stole 2020, you have to understand how we ended up with a, how should I say, challenger to Trump.
You mean in 2016?
Yeah, and now in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, Sanders got screwed in California again. But even though he won, he could have had 100 more delegates, let's say. Now,
so wait a minute. I thought you were saying that you had
something with you.
But wait, before you go on, you're saying that you're talking about 2020 California or 2016 California?
2020, Sanders was screwed out of 553,000 votes. I worked these numbers with the #1 voting statistician who gets all the direct numbers from the Secretary of State, who, by the way, is the Catherine Harris of California, Alex Padilla. And Democratic. We have these partisan hacks running our vote.
But what about 2016? You're not talking about 2016.
2016, Sanders absolutely won, and I don't have the numbers right offhand because I'd have to read my book again. And
I'm sold. I'm buying the book.
But the other thing is, and this is important. You and I, tomorrow, if you're watching this live, no, not tomorrow, on Saturday at 1 p.m. Pacific, or 4 p.m. Eastern, we will be beginning a live program. You and me will be talking with Tom Hartman and with Barbara Arnwine, the great voting rights lawyer, with Lee Camp, another great voting rights lawyer or comic and part-time comic, and then some other very good people, Nomi Prince and yourself, Josh Fox, in a Facebook Live. We'll go to Josh Fox, and you'll be clicking in and liking that, and we like you. And we'll be talking about how Trump stole 2020, and also very importantly and lovely is we also have this wonderful book, Things Have Changed.
The truth has changed.
The truth has changed. The truth has changed. And you happen to have one. Did you borrow that back from mom or what? Handsome guy in the cover, huh?
The truth has changed.
Yeah,
That's
no,
my book.
and
And actually, you know, this is a book also about voter suppression.
yes, and what I want people to do,
This,
our books go together. They really do. They really team
they
up.
do. They're companion
Get those
pieces.
two that they'll have little right exactly. They'll spawn actually new thoughts. I not only have I seen the
They'll
play,
spawn a bunch of old thoughts
but I
as
got to tell
well.
you, I've read. I love the play, but I actually I have to say I really even more enjoyed the book because you get the longer because now the play's been shortened and you get
Yeah.
the full Monty. You can read it quickly. So people say, "Oh, I don't want to read a play." You have to understand when you read this, it has unbelievable impact. It was I wrote, by the way, I blurbed it. I think my blurb is on the cover.
It is.
It is no BS because I can't use this line many times. It's like just about the best thing I've read in a decade. So, and I mean that, guys. So you got to get that book. So I know that we seem to be stroking each other here, and it's not because we've been chewing dandelions that someone is pissed on, but it's.
I I I have no comment
Did
on
you
that.
ever blow on a dandelion? Okay, so I don't want to get personal, but I'll never forget. I had a girlfriend, wonderful. She was in, believe it or not, Sendero Luminoso out of Peru.
Hmm.
She was like a Maoist crazy, but kind of knew survival stuff. So when she saw dandelions coming out of the sidewalk in Chicago, she started immediately grabbing it and said, "What the hell are you doing?" She said, "Oh, I'll have this for dinner." You're grabbing the crap that dogs have pooped on in Chicago on the sidewalks. So I'm not sure about. Think about where you get your dandelion. But
You do
okay,
have to
once
think
again,
about where you're getting them. You do.
okay, go to Josh Fox. Where do we go, Josh? That you're
Well, okay, so at joshfoxfilm.com, you can watch all of my films. Not all of them, but a selection of my films there for free. Now, we just opened up a whole bunch
where
of
are we
them for
doing
free.
the live together? I'll be at Greg
Tomorrow, the live
Greg
is at
Palast.
Greg Palace.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so Saturday, 1
Saturday.
p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. And it'll go run about 3 hours. We'll be taking questions
Yeah.
and with the wonderful Tom Hartman. And no, this is great because I think that what's happening now is that there's a kind of dual thing. I'm getting very concerned. It's not whether I want Donald Trump to be president or not. I want the guy well, now it's going to be a guy, right? The guy who gets the most votes to
Mm-hmm.
win, as opposed to what we've had so far. And I'm not even talking about the popular vote. I'm talking about the fact that they have been crushing. We have these Jim Crow elections, and I know we just had this kind of deadly miracle in Wisconsin, where the Wisconsin Supreme Court, which was on the ballot, the Wisconsin Supreme Court said we're going ahead with election for us, despite the fact that we know that in Milwaukee, where it's dense and people will be lining up and poll workers will be handing ballots back and forth. We have no problem with people dying to be forced to vote. So they thought that would kill off, in both senses of the word, the Milwaukee African American vote. They wanted it to go ahead quickly, this election, because the students were sent away from the University of Wisconsin. So they thought, oh, this is a lock for the Republican who's running for the Wisconsin State Supreme Court, and he still lost. And the reason he lost is that people said the hell with it, they were going to take their chance and vote as one. And I have to say, a lot of Republicans didn't like the fact that this guy in the Wisconsin Supreme Court was pushing for an election that he would kill people. And the governor, the Democrat governor,
it was brutalizing to watch. It was brutalizing to watch.
It was
When I saw the videos of people in Milwaukee in the rain, 6 feet apart, standing there for hours to be able to vote because there were only 5 polling stations open in the entire city, it broke my heart. And I happen to think that part of that video, this is just speculation because I don't actually know, but watching that made me feel that American democracy had collapsed completely. And that's somehow what I feel when I read your book. We talked a lot about how earlier in the program, Rania and I, about how Israel can't call itself a democracy because most of the Palestinians can't vote. But we're also at a place where Princeton University has said that the United States is not a democracy because it doesn't seem to matter what people think and the oligarchs do what they want. But you're saying right now that Al Gore won the 2000 election, that John Kerry won the 2004 election, and that Hillary Clinton won the 2016 election, according to the
Even on the
reporting that
electoral
you have
college.
done that has been heralded around the world as the most sophisticated and important reporting of this kind on democracy. So you're saying, in fact, the Iraq War should have never happened, that we should have had a climate change president in Al Gore, that we should. I mean, it's beyond astounding to even think about the
Well,
change in
but
our
now, wait a
lifetime.
minute. Now you have a president with a big brain. As he says so. Where does he have it, though? That's why where did he put it?
Greg, in your estimation, what
No,
needs
it's
to be
very serious.
done?
What can
What
be done?
needs to be done to? I know you're a journalist and you don't endorse candidates.
I don't.
But I know that you're saying that you want the candidate with the most votes to win, and it sounds as if you're saying that America has certainly trended towards Democrats over the last 20 years, 30 years, whatever it's been. And so, what is it that you're actually saying needs to happen if we want to try to have Donald Trump not elected this next time around?
Well, at the end of my book, I could say, at the end of these books about, which involve voting, and it's a story of investigative reporting. And by the way, I don't want to leave out the fact that we have a 48-page comic book in the middle by the insane penman Ted Rall, because I like comics.
Oh wow, Ted Rall is
If you
great.
don't want to read all the black ink stuff, you can get the comic book and just read that in the middle. But at the end of the book, I say, I don't want to give you a bunch of BS stuff like let's recommit to democracy. Practical things. Anyone listening to this, by the way, please, for God's sake, check your registration. I don't care if you've been registered going to the same polling station for 22 years or whatever since the Nixon administration. They removed 17 million. This is not a Greg Palast number. 17 million people, according to the U.S. Elections Assistance Commission, have been purged from the voter rolls in the past 2 years. That could be you. So you go to your state Secretary of State's office. Everyone can look up online whether they are registered and they got your right address and your right name and all that crap. And if not, re-register online right there so you don't blow your own vote. And no Dan Hicks jokes there. Don't blow your own vote. And that also means don't steal your own vote by deciding, they're not good enough for me. I'm not going to vote. Look, democracy is all about ugly, disgusting, filthy choices, and you have no way out of it. And I will say that being in Europe, because remember, I was a BBC television reporter where I was doing these investigations. No, actually, the rest of the world is now pretty skeptical about what the Americans like to call our wonderful democracy.
Right.
My wife is a Swiss citizen and actually a British citizen. By the way, that's something else I'd like you to do. Anyone listening here who has a green card, damn it, there's 9.3 million of you who qualify for citizenship. Go get it. That would change things quite a bit too, all over this country. But I'm talking to my wife, who is resisting becoming an American. But in Switzerland, they don't have registration. They don't assume that everyone is an illegal alien from another planet coming in to vote. And by the way, they have a much bigger immigrant population proportionally than the U.S. They don't assume people are cheaters and liars. And the company that makes the Swiss ballots, which are paper and are really easy to understand, they said they wanted me to endorse their ballot. They said, because we can show Americans how you can run elections where you don't lose millions and millions of votes. I said, they don't want that. They don't want that.
But Greg, if the Democrats have lost over and over and over again because of these tactics, why, when they were in power, did they not change these things? And did they just not listen to you? Or are they listening to you now?
It's a very interesting. It's a split. What's happened is there's been a big change because of actually one person, Stacey Abrams. When she ran in 2018, I was investigating for Rolling Stone and Salon, and she was running against the guy who's in charge of the voting, the Secretary of State, Brian Kemp.
Right.
And Brian Kemp, and by the way, I'm making fun of his accent because he made up that accent to put on the goobers while he was running, because he used to talk like he was more Jimmy Carter type of accent, New South intellectual, upscale, upper class accent. But now he got himself a pickup truck to round up them illegals. I'm quoting him, by the way. I'm not exaggerating. He said, I got me a shotgun that no one's going to take away from me. You got to have a healthy respect for my Second Amendment, son. And then, and he also has a chainsaw, and he used the chainsaw to cut red tape. But he also
You're basically describing, apart from the whole immigrant rounding up part of thing, you're basically describing my day with my chainsaw and my shotgun and my pickup truck. Sorry.
But it's, yeah, so
I did, yeah.
don't round up any, just stick.
No, I just round up some sunfish in the ponds. That's all I did.
So what happened is this guy removed over about 500,000 people from the voter rolls, mostly voters of color, young people, Democrats. And he said they left the state. You know, if you leave Georgia, okay, you shouldn't vote in Georgia. But I had experts. I hired them from the guys who are the experts for Amazon and eBay, and they know exactly where you were and whether you downloaded Chinese food and Chinese porn last month. So they said, no, 340,134 people have never left the state. They just got shafted out of their vote. So Stacey Abrams is the first Democrat in my lifetime who said, I won that election, but I will not be inaugurated because they used Jim Crow tactics to remove my voters. And she cited my investigations, which are in the book. And by the way, Stacey Abrams has hired my team now to take this on, and we've been doing this all over the country. So if you read how Trump...
So are you gunning for Stacey Abrams to be the vice presidential candidate? Because this might be a chance for that to happen.
I make no for Democrats and Republicans. I'm gunning for the presidential candidate to say, you know, no, you're not gonna screw all the black voters, the young voters, the Hispanic voters, and their new group that they're going after, by the way, the Asian American voters. A huge attack on Asian American. You know that this guy, Brian Kemp, is now Governor Kemp of Georgia. And you'll see pictures of me where I jumped him under a pig. This is on Democracy Now!
You did what?
I jumped him under a pig. And literally, there's a picture.
Was it like at a Piggly Wiggledy?
Well,
or something
actually,
like that?
It was under a neon sign of a pig in front of a barbecue joint.
All right.
But
this wasn't some Greg Palast Black Mirror episode.
Not like me wearing a pig suit. Big surprise.
Right.
He was wearing the pig suit, but he just didn't know it. And so I tried to ask him. I said, "Why do I have to sue you, Brian? By the way, I just want a federal case against this schmuck." And I said, "Why do I have to sue you in court to find out who you're removing from the voter rolls? Why are you purging black people from the voter rolls so you can steal this election? What's going on here?" Right. And of course, he had me arrested. So that the interview was short. But
listen, can I just say we're out of time. We're over time because it's impossible to deny the truth of both of my guests tonight, Rania Khalek and Greg Palast. And Greg, dude, you've been doing the most unbelievable work on this for so long. How do you deal with the frustration? I'm beginning to get there with you with my work on the fossil fuel industry, right? Because it's how do you deal with the frustration of seeing this happen again and again and again and again? Just as a final word, and then tell us what we really besides just checking our registration.
Okay.
You know, you've said before we have to vote in overwhelming numbers. We have to win by 6%, whatever it is.
Overwhelm the steal. They stole about 7.9 million votes from Hillary Clinton, especially in those states, swing states. Don't steal your own vote by not voting. And if you're going to vote by mail, for God's sake, find out how many stamps you need. In 6 states, you need witnesses. In 3 states, you need a notary public. Someone you find a notary you don't like because you may kill them. In order to be able to vote, you know, you have to protect your own vote and encourage other people to vote safely, but do it. And I don't know what to do. Look, we're not going to get miracles here. All we're asking for is like that the voters choose the politicians and not the opposite way around. So pick up the book. Obviously, that will help to think of how Trump stole 2020 as kind of a ballot condom protecting you and your family and your vote. And Josh, thank you so much. And as you know, we joke about like the most horrific things because that is the way I personally just survive it because I can't, I couldn't, I really, I do actually don't always keep up this humor. I've had some very, very dark nights with this.
Mm.
It's very frustrating. And that's why I'm very thrilled that you're going through some of the same frustrations trying to get out the damn truth, which is change.
Right.
So I even got a plug for your book at the end.
Greg, you're an incredible American and amazing human being, and we owe you so much for your reporting because it tells us that what it does for me is it tells me that America is not the place that elected these people. That's extraordinarily important to understand and know when you go out into America, because especially I guess for Jews and other folks who are not necessarily your run-of-the-mill white homogenous monoculture people, and I'm that in my personal life, going out into America is often terrifying because the minute they know you're a Jew, then it's something is different. And it's called racism. And so it's really important to recognize that when you go and leave what I call the island off the coast of America, New York City, or this oasis of the Delaware River Basin where we have fought for our rights and beaten the oil industry, that it's not the Trump-toting, Trump-supporting, gun-toting, Confederate flag-waving, Nazi majority empire that it seems. That we, in fact, the American people, are not that majority-wise. We are, in fact, a place which understands a different sense of values and that we are being screwed and we're being taken, and our democracy has been taken away from us. That gives me enormous faith in the American people. What I'm hoping is that we can figure out this time around how to have a fair election.
Yep, as I say in my book, America, don't blame yourself. You did not elect a porcine, bloviating bigot with grifter with little griplets. You are not. You didn't do this. It was done by these vote manipulating, monkeys that, like Brian Kemp, Alex Padilla, unfortunately Democrat of California, Catherine Harris, and all the rest of the vote gangsters and the ballot bandits, who are just, by the way, when you see these clowns, they're not charge men. They're just the glove puppets, and it's the billionaires who have their fingers in the glove. Mm-hmm. And by the way, when we do the live, when you get on with the live tomorrow, people, go to Greg Palast Investigates on Facebook, go to Josh Fox, and like it. And you'll see me and Josh, but also David K. Johnston, who great investigative reporter, Pulitzer Prize winner, who did a deep investigation, said, when he took office, Donald Trump was not a billionaire. He just plays one on TV. He's a nega billionaire. He owed money. He has a negative net worth. Now, of course, in his office, he's figuring out how to, stuff his little pockets. But so America, it's not your fault. Read the book, How Trump Stole 2020, and maybe, I don't have a crystal ball, but maybe we can change where it's heading, and I think we can.
Fingers crossed. All right, Greg, we'll be back with you anytime you feel like it. I appreciate you so much. And yes, watch the live on Saturday, 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 o'clock Eastern. It's us. And I appreciate this dialogue so much. It's such a wealth of riches. I am so grateful to this community that I know, and to Greg and to Rania and to all the journalists out there fighting for truth and fighting for justice.
Okay, thanks a lot, Josh.
All right, take it easy. Have a great night.